Well, welcome back, everybody. We are getting ready to start part 5, I think it is, if I can count that high, of the 314 build. As you guys can see, a little bit's changed. If you watched the last video, you saw we got the electric start put on the engine, and off camera, I just did some small things. I got the engine mounted down for good, went through and replaced all the regular nuts with nylocks. You guys have watched me take this engine on and off like 3 times now. Didn't really think y'all wanted to see it again. I also went through and just did stuff like ran a tap through all the drilled portions of the frame where different parts go. Just started getting some hardware laid out, just getting stuff ready to go. Any of you guys that's taken on a project like this, you know where I'm at right now. There's 100 different things I need to get done. I just don't quite know what direction I want to go in. So I think for this video, we're going to focus on getting the electronics set up, getting the battery bolted in for good. We'll have to make a battery hold down. I do want to make a small wiring harness to go ahead and run out the back of the tractor and out the front. So whenever we go to do lights, I've got the wires ran. Key switch mounted up, just stuff like that, and we'll see how it goes. If we have enough time, we can start getting some body panels put on. Video is going to be bouncing around. You guys just stay tuned. Hopefully I'm going to be able to film some stuff and you guys will be able to keep up with it. So yeah, here we go. Guys, I think the first thing we're going to start with, because I need to get it done and over with so it's out of the way, because the more stuff I put on here, the less access I'm going to have. You guys watched there a couple of videos ago. This oil drain is in a really bad spot. And on this style engine, there's not an oil drain on the front. There's just one. So they make a kit you can buy that extends it. It's got a drain hose. It's like 30 bucks. And I said, I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to make something. So the oil drain bolt is an M10 by 1 1/4 or 1.25. So here's my plan. I've got a couple different options here for 3 bolts. I am going to drill one of these out and we are going to weld one of these 1/4 nipples to the side of that, and then we're going to put this ball valve on the end of it. So if everything works out right, that's pretty much what we're going to end up with. Guys, this is what I'm thinking. Instead of butt welding this like so, which would probably work, I mean, either whatever I do is going to work. I think what we're going to do instead is use this factory oil drain bolt. I'm going to cut these threads back just enough to where this will slide in there, and that'll kind of help keep it centered, and I think it's going to be a little bit stronger. Well, there we go, guys. I don't think it's too bad at all. Not the perfect length. Now, when I crack that open, it's just gonna go whoop right down. Now I've sat here for about 5 minutes. eyeballing this, trying to figure out where I want to put this. If it was a perfect world, I'd put it somewhere about here, somewhat out of the way, run the wires, but there's a bracket behind it, and the hole I'd have to drill on this side is going to hit one of the hydraulic fittings. So I found the best place that we're going to have to do this is going to be right about where these two bolts are. And obviously they don't line up, unfortunately. But these two bolts, the only purpose they serve is to attach this L bracket to this, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a shroud or whatever, fascia. So we'll get this pulled back off, drill a couple holes, and get this mounted somewhere right about there. All right, next I want to go ahead and see about getting the key switch mounted up. I want to show you guys how this wiring is going to work. So this connector here actually goes to the output from the flywheel, the charging coil. This is going to have to get extended, not a big deal. I kind of figured so. So we do that. This green connection here is the other plug-in that goes here. And this mess of wires, I can get it out. This is what goes to the key switch. So this is going to get fed through here somewhere out of the way of the drive belt and the steering gear. And it's going to go up front to right about here where our key switch is going to go. Do a trim ring. All right, little update, guys. Got my two wires for the headlight switch. Got them running around. I got my two wires hooked up for the voltage gauge. I've got my ignition switch wires ran. So I think we are ready to bolt this thing on. You can see coming out here at the front, this is the wiring harness for the key switch. And this is my harness for the lights and the voltage gauge. So, all right, guys, got some new hardware. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Levi, why in the world would you put Phillips head screws back in these panels whenever you know how awful they are to try to get out? Well, I don't really have a good answer for you, other than the fact that, I don't know, I think they're gonna look good. And I'm sure at some point down the road, I'll cuss myself for using these and not a better, far superior fastener. But hey, they're shiny, right? So the only accessories I had to worry about wiring up was this voltage gauge and the headlight switch. Now this voltage gauge, all it literally needs to see is positive and ground, battery negative, whatever. So that's all I had to worry about on this. This, obviously 12 volt in, 12 volt out. But what I decided to do, I went and grabbed one of these bus bars, or whatever you guys call it, a terminal block, because what I found out, that volt gauge is gonna run all the time when it sees battery voltage. So what I did, this green wire, this is 12 volt coming from the key switch that was going to the voltage regulator. I'm assuming the voltage regulator has to see battery voltage in order for it to work right. So I ran it over on this terminal block, piggyback the voltage regulator off of that. This wire coming out is going to the battery voltage gauge. This wire down here is the hot for my headlight switch. That's going to feed this terminal here. So whenever I decide to do my tail lights and headlights, I can grab 12 volt right here. And like I mentioned, I had to extend this harness coming out of the charging coils. That was no big deal. I got it plugged in down there. Tried to tidy my wires up. On top of that, we've got battery positive going to the starter, and then we have got battery negative going to the engine block, as well as negative going from the battery to the frame of the tractor. And that's also where I'm picking up my ground for my voltage gauge. One more thing I want to take care of before we start getting panels put back on. I want to go ahead and get my wiring ran to the front of the tractor and to the back of the tractor for my lights. So that's what we're going to work on now. And guys, it's almost a shame to have to hide this harness. Got it ground underneath the engine plate, got some cush clamps, ground, and that's going to be the feed from the switch on the dash. So I'm just going to do the same thing for the lights on the rear. I'll build a harness, run them down the chassis, and bring them up somewhere right in this area. All right, next thing I want to do, make up a battery hold down. I did find in my parts stash a battery tray, so I got that sitting on the shelf. So this is what I do. Go to the hardware store, get you some 1/4 inch round stock, and I put a nice bend on the bottom, cut it to length, and then I cut threads in it. I'll show you. Put you an end on it. It'll end up sticking up like that. Then get you a piece of flat bar. They also sell this stuff at the hardware store. I'm out, so I found this piece of scrap. Drill you a couple holes. Then you thread your nuts on. Pretty simple. That's just the way that I've started doing it. Quarter by 20 tap. All right, guys, once you get them painted your color of choice, ready to put them on. Yeah, and that's what you end up with. I get to do it twice because I forgot to put my plastic battery tray in there. Guys, we're going to take a step back away from the electronics and move on to trying to get this throttle cable hooked up. Now in the first video of this, or second, you saw I just kind of rigged this up to where we could use it. I want it to be a little bit more permanent. And this new throttle bracket that comes with the electric start kit, it's not too bad of a starting point. I just got to figure out how I get it in there to hold the cable in place. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. show you guys what we got here. Open, closed. Open, closed. I think it's gonna work just fine, guys. Next thing I want to take care of, guys, I want to go and get the fluids replaced in this thing. That's 10W30, so these hydrostatic rear ends, this is what you're going to use. You're going to use 10W30. We're also going to be doing a filter change. And fun fact, Wix 51516 is the filter you need for the rear end if you want to go Wix. And this is also the same filter that you can run on your own in 16 horse or your own in 20 horse. What do you think? Think it's gonna look good or bad? Ooh, a lot of moisture in that. You guys can see that. It's got a wheel horse filter on it still. Let's see, what year did Toro wheel horse go out of business? 96? That sound right? You figure it's probably been at least 20 years since this oil's been changed, unless somebody found a new old stock filter, but I doubt it. All right, I've let this drip for quite a bit. Cleaned out as much of the old crap as I could. Go ahead and get the new filter put on. That's the other thing about this model of Wix. It actually gives you a little bit more capacity over the other ones. I'm getting ahead of myself here. For any of you guys that's changed oil in one of these, you know what an absolute pain in the butt it can be to keep it from getting airlocked. So leave your oil filter cracked. And even with that, it's still a very slow going process. So capacity, I think they said 4 or 5 quarts, somewhere in there with a filter change. So I won't pretend to be the smartest man in the world, but that worked out pretty good. If you guys are trying to bleed the air out of it, get you a drill. If you guys saw it on camera, I did this and it purged the air out. And look at that. We know the rear end works, huh? All right, moving on from that, we gotta get some oil put back in the engine. And you guys can see with this electric starter now, there's even less room to get in here to put oil in it. So I bought one of them cheap extendo accordion funnels. I'm hoping that we can get that in there and jimmy it up enough that we can get some oil put in it. This is my plan. Got an empty quart jug, one of these 79-cent extendo funnels. This will thread on, but you guys are gonna love this. Diesel engine takes 1540, right? I believe Walmart had a gallon of this on sale for like 10 bucks. Man, I figured it'd be just right for that cheap diesel engine. We will start with 16 ounces, which I believe is what the capacity is. We'll add more if we need to. I just don't want to make a mess like the last time I put oil in this thing. Guys, this is why you should always double check yourself. I assume this thing had same oil capacity as like a Predator, which is 16 ounces or, you know, half a quart. But according to this manual, it takes 0.7 of a liters. Well, if you Google that, because I'm not smart enough to understand the conversion there, it's like 23.5 ounces. So we need to add, let's see, I put 16 in, so what? Another 6 ounces, somewhere in there, 7, sure. Next thing I want to take care of, guys, is I want to get a fuel filter put on this thing. And if you watch the electric start video, maybe I didn't mention it, but actually inside this tank, where the outlet is, it's actually, well, besides that, it's got a screen that somewhat filters the fuel, but it looks like a screen door. So I wanted to put something on it. Now, I had bought a big bundle of these off Amazon forever ago. There's nothing wrong with these in regards of it's better than nothing, but not the best quality. HIPAA Parts actually reached out to me. It's been a couple weeks ago now. They sent me some stuff to try out. This isn't a sponsorship by any means. They just said, hey, we got some stuff, try it out, see what you think. So this is what we're gonna use. I mean, you can tell by looking just that the quality is that much better over this thing. The cleats and the filter. And they've actually got a store on Amazon. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got revival kits, but it comes with carburetors, ignition coils, everything. So anyway, enough ranting. Let's get this put on. All right, guys, we're gonna take a step back away from doing the boring maintenance stuff, and I wanna do something kind of fun. So what I've got here is the new stack muffler that's gonna go on this thing. I've bought these before off Amazon. They're like 30 or 40 bucks or something. I've actually got one on one of my other 416s, but so we're going to be making up some exhaust. It's not as hard as it sounds. If you guys have got access to a welder and some scrap material, you can usually rig something up pretty easy. So we're gonna start with getting the hood put back on so I know what kind of clearance I'm working with. And yeah, we'll kind of just build it out from there. For the first time, but not the last time, because it's gonna have to come off again. Well, that's a refreshing sight, ain't it? It's always nice seeing the project kind of start going back together. Oh yeah. All right, let's see if we get a muffler put on this. All right, we're gonna start taking this old muffler off. And hopefully not tear the gasket. Very nice. Now guys, the way that I started doing this, I've done it quite a few times now. Get you some flat stock, some flat bar, 3/16, so whatever thickness you want to use. You don't want to do nothing too thick, but you don't want to use nothing thin like that sheet metal. So this is the plate we use for the engine plate. So I'm going to take this gasket and I'm going to trace it on this. You can even use spray paint to create an outline of it. However you want to do it, mark it on your plate, and that's what you're going to use to make your flange. Something else I'm really excited about Look who finally got another 240 put out here with a 50 amp. So now we can use this to finally cut this thick stuff. Hey guys, just don't look too close at my welds. But I think it'll do just fine. All right guys, that ain't looking too bad, huh? Yeah. Now obviously we need to put a support bracket on this thing. The casting on this cylinder head is pretty thin where that bolt goes. So the next thing we'll work on, I'm gonna get me some flat stock or flat bar, build me some kind of support bracket that'll either support the header here and go down, or I'll mount it to the bottom of the muffler, take it straight down to one of these holes in the frame or even this motor plate bolt. So that'll be the next thing. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it for the exhaust portion. I think it turned out pretty good. Got my brace end down there, got the custom flange, muffler, and the chrome tip. Yeah, that'll do good. Let's move on to trying to put an intake on this. All right, guys. Let's see what this thing sounds like with the new exhaust. Guys, that is going to do it for this part. I'm kind of losing count. What is this, part 5 now? I don't know. It's been a long road. We've got a whole lot done on this thing. This thing has came a long way from that faded, rusty, crusty thing I brought home with me on the trailer. So I'm happy with how it's turning out. I'm happy with the progress we've made on it. We're ready for fun stuff. I'm hoping in the next video we can start putting some body panels back on, maybe some new stickers, some new lights. I don't know, we can really, next video we'll be able to see how this thing comes together, all the fun stuff. So I did notice a couple days ago we broke 900 subscribers, which is awesome. You guys are doing great. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I try to read every comment. I try to respond to most of them. You guys just keep doing you, and I'm going to keep putting some content out. And I'm sure to some of you guys, you've noticed this sitting in the background in a couple clips. I will have a video on that coming up sometime soon as well. So as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in a week or so. You guys have a good one.